Hi, everybody. I just want to talk to you today about high-level spiritual warfare. We have to learn it. It's something that, I don't know about you, but last season that we've had in the nations, that just told me that we need to learn how to pray, how to take authority, how to stand in a whole new way. I don't think it's new to the New Testament or the apostles or anything, but it might be new to some of you. So I want to go into that today, just a little bit, just in brief. And so why don't you go ahead and let me know your name, let me know where you're from, and I'd love to just see all the different places that you're coming in from. And so that's funny. Kara says, I thought you're in Australia. I'm in Australia online. Okay. I can't cross the border. They won't let me in. I have to be quarantined for 14 straight up days. And so I'm going to have to, we're going to simulcast, which I've done where I've been projected into different facilities and buildings online, but not where I can actually see the people and interact with the people in like a large scale way. So we're going to do this for the first time. So that'll be tonight over in New South Wales. So I'm looking forward to it because I just feel the anointing on that thing. So that's happening tonight. It is the prophetic conference. Pastor Asher and Catherine Ranala, they'll be in Australia on the ground, and myself coming in through that simulcast way. So Kara, I know that is sad. I would love to be in Australia. I chat with people in Australia all the time, almost daily. So somebody over there. So, okay. But we're talking about high level spiritual warfare. We need to learn this. And I want to point you to the Excellence in the Supernatural online mentorship. That's something we are going to dive into. We are going to really tackle that deeply in this next mentorship, high level spiritual warfare, and really what that's all about. And so I want to point you to that. Registration is going on now. We do have a monthly option. We also have a couple different gateways. So if you go to jenniferevaz.com, you'll see all of that. And again, we start in June 8th specifically, and we're going to open up the Facebook community group, I believe June 1st or June 2nd. Okay. And so you definitely want to be a part of that. It is time to grow. Okay. And this is a community that is growing. It's growing numerically, but it's also growing in just their learning, their influence, their impact. I've seen many of them shoot out into ministry, podcasts, books, traveling ministry, those kind of things. Really is something happening with that group. Okay. All right. So I'm going to take you to Acts chapter 16. I'm in verse 16. Okay. And we're going to start here. It says, one day as we were going down to the place of prayer, we met a slave girl who had a spirit that enabled her to tell the future. And she earned a lot of money for her masters by telling fortunes. She followed Paul and the rest of us, shouting, these men are servants of the Most High God, and they have come to tell you how to be saved. Now this went on day after day until Paul got so exasperated that he turned and said to the demon within her, I command you in the name of Jesus Christ to come out of her. And instantly it left her. Okay, I'm in verse 19. Her master's hopes of wealth were now shattered. So they grabbed Paul and Silas and dragged them before the authorities at the marketplace. The whole city is in an uproar because of these Jews. They shouted to the city officials. They are teaching customs that are illegal for us Romans to practice. A mob quickly formed against Paul and Silas, and the city officials ordered them stripped and beaten with wooden rods. They were severely beaten and then thrown into prison. Okay. And then as the story goes, they were singing hymns to God at midnight, and all of a sudden, the foundations of the prison began to shake, and the doors flew open, and it was history from there. Okay, so they ended up coming out of jail quite miraculously. All right, so that's the story about this. Now I want to take you through this a bit because to help you understand the story and also help you to understand what's going on perhaps with you. And so they were doing what God called them to do. They were in their assignment. All right. And then they ran up against this thing. And, they're on their way to prayer. Thank God there are apostles that were prayerful. but they're on their way to prayer and they're doing their assignment, collectively, overall. They run into this girl, and this girl is actually shouting the truth. These men will show you the way of salvation. And she's shouting the truth, but it's a demon inside of her that's actually harassing them and mocking them. And so Paul got annoyed. And for those of you who've ever dealt with anybody who's demonized, you know exactly what this is. That annoyance that hits you, and it's a bizarre thing. It's like all of a sudden, next thing you know, you're like, I have to just cast this out, and you just do it, okay? And so that's basically what he did. He cast the spirit out. Most of the time, that's it. Okay, the spirit's out. You can minister to the person. You can, invite them to give their life to Jesus, and they need to, because if they don't, it's just going to be worse for them later. And that's a whole nother teaching right there. But that's normally what you would do, and that would be the end of it. But what we're dealing with here was not just a demon that possessed the person. It was actually a territorial spirit, which is different. Okay, now we're looking at Ephesians 6. You wrestle not against flesh and blood, but powers, principalities, spiritual hosts of wickedness in high places, those kind of things. Okay, rulers of darkness. So anyway, it turns out they weren't just dealing with your ordinary demon. You're dealing with something that had jurisdiction, had control of like a whole turf, a whole geographical region. And how do we know? And a lot of this is hindsight. Okay. How do we know? Because the whole city went into an uproar, and Paul and Silas ended up getting beaten and thrown in prison. Okay. Because they cast a demon out of somebody. Okay. So that's how you know that was a little bit bigger than just your regular demon. Okay. And so it was a higher level spirit, and the backlash was bigger. And so the thing is, what I find with people is when they have that happen to them, okay, and they're just doing what God told them to do, and they run into something like that, what happens is, the backlash comes, and they let go of their authority. They give it away. They just kind of, turn tail and just give up. And that's the end of their ministry. But we don't see that with the Apostle Paul and Silas. We see them, still worshiping the Lord, worshiping at midnight, worshiping after they've been beaten. Okay. We see them actually in prison. Okay. And actually standing in their authority. All right. I'm sure they knew what worship did. And I'm sure they were just trusting the Lord to get him out of prison. Okay. Because Jesus is the one who sets us free. Even in those, in that kind of context, he's going to get you out of prison. And so I'm sure that's what they were doing, rather than just giving into the situation and giving up on it and just letting it happen and just woe is me, and all of that. Okay. And so that's usually where I see a lot of people give up and lose the battle, and that's the end of it. Okay, like they don't come back into ministry. We don't see them again. They collapse, they fall apart, all that kind of stuff. And so we got to learn from this. All right, because have you noticed? Now I'm just trusting. I'm talking to a lot of people who are faithful Christians for the most part. You probably pray with your church. You probably engage appropriately the gospel of Jesus Christ in your city where God is giving you influence. I'm just banking on that's probably many of your stories. But the thing is, have you noticed that we're not dealing with even the territorial spirits that afflict our cities? We're not even dealing with that anymore. We're dealing with stuff that is shutting down entire nations all at once. Okay, so the game has changed. We have to learn spiritual warfare on a whole nother level. All right. It's going to affect you. And if you're not careful, when the backlash comes, you're just going to roll over and just give up and just give everything away. And you're not going to see the breakthrough that God intends to have in and through you. Nations rise and fall on the prayers of the church. And guess what happens? The Lord is going to work with the faith of his church. Jesus said something. He says, when I return, will I find faith on the earth? Okay, that was not a statement of doubt. That was a challenge. And so we've got to meet the challenge, and we've got to rise to a whole nother level in this. Okay, and here's the thing, different spirits, they flow, they function differently. You deal with them differently. And so in the mentorship, I want to teach you how to identify what is what. and I want to show you how to work through it. And most importantly, I want to teach you what your spiritual authority is according to the Bible. A lot of us, we really don't know. Okay, we really don't know. I'm not saying that you're not going to have problems. That is a false teaching, that if you have backlash, that you must have done something wrong. Okay, that's actually false. It's not biblical. We don't even see that patterned out in the New Testament whatsoever. But at the same time, when backlash happens, what do? Okay, because you're supposed to walk through that victoriously. All right, so those are things that we're going to be dealing with in this next mentorship. And I want to invite you to come in. Be sure to register now. There will be a price increase June 1st, so you want to register before that happens. We have some monthly options, and we have a couple different gateways that you can go through depending on where you're at in the globe, okay? All right, so check it out, jenniferevaz.com, and look forward to seeing you there. All right, bye-bye.